Like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shade for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy, and you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this, and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this, and I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
All right, shout out to the mighty Who Dat Nation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fam. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate y'all being in the live for this one, man. Listen, Saints, day 16 is in the book. Saints practice, joint practice. What they were doing in California is adding in. They're going to get ready to head back to the city, man, in preparation of the Jacksonville Jaguars matchup. There will be noontime kickoff in the New Orleans Superdome. So this will be the second preseason matchup. The Saints had kind of discovered something about themselves in the joint practice against another team. Now, we know the Rams for recent years have been a pretty successful team. They won a Super Bowl. They've been a competing interest in the NFC. Over the last several years, they have a really fantastic coach and some good talent. And we know that a couple of those really good guys then moved on, and the team is looking to build, and they accrued some really good talent and have been making some good decisions. So it's good for the Saints to be able to match up against a team like the Rams, and Coach McVay and Kellen Moore getting his feet wet. So anyway, we're going to cover that and then some. In this episode of the show, the Saints add a new player. They also give injury news on another player and just overall. So y'all do me a service. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button as we get going in the broadcast. Big Q representing the great Saint Think Tank and the entire Who Dat Nation. Shout out to you guys. Hit the like button, the share button, the notification button. And if you're not a sub up. Let's go. All right. Just start the broadcast off, man. Let's see Coach Moore on the screen talking. But while he's talking, I'm going to be talking and telling you about what the hell happened in camp, right? And pretty much the defense was pretty much what it is. And the reason why the defense is dominating, Coach Staley's implemented a very good unit. And the reason why the Saints defense is better is because they give it the resources, not so much on offense. So I don't know what the take is. And I've pinpointed this and shared this thought with the Who Dat Nation, the great Saint think tank, about the offense's inability, the offensive brass inability to do what the defense is doing, which means Coach Staley is going out and he's getting players that he don't see stepping up. If he don't like what Isaiah Foskey, the slow man, is doing, he's going to get other players. They're bringing other players for tryouts. Not the same energy with the offense. You're seeing what the offense is doing. You're seeing how not so good the offensive backups are, insofar as the offensive line in particular, but other groups as well. And the Saints offense do nothing. But while the defense brings in resources to improve himself, it's not the same energy. I'm pinpointing this, and I don't understand what's going on there. You know, you would want to do that now as opposed to wait toward the end of the preseason and then bring in a veteran or whatever. You want to expose them to your system right now. It shortens the learning curve and allows the team to flow organically. But we'll see what happens, right? But anyway, on what happened in the attendance side of it, Alontae Taylor was not at practice, neither Devin Neal. We know what time it is with him. JT Gray had an hamstring. Jaseen Davis was not there, and those Josiah Raheem was listed as an excuse. So it's interesting. So JT Gray was working off to the sideline with trainers, but that's a good side. Taylor and Alontae Taylor and Penning was not seen. So anyway, the QB watch, which is the point of what everybody wants to know about, is both Rattler and Shuck. Through the pass rush nuance that accounted for, Rattler started with the first team. He completed 7 passes before a throwaway spurred his pressure. So it was looking all right for these guys. So you did see downfield passes at practice, which was a critique of a lot of the family members dealing with Spencer Rattler when he was in there, and they need to attack downfield. He didn't do that, and you seen Shuck had success attacking downfield. But Rattler did do a deep ball to Rashid Shaheed on a deep post, but it was knocked away. You know, he kind of threw it behind him. The guy made a play on it. He later on found Rashid Shaheed for a 50-yard touchdown up the I think it was the left sideline. And he put it right there. He put it spot on, like the pass before. He put it a little to the back of him and gave the defense an opportunity to knock it down. But the second time, he put that thing ahead of him, and that's what you do when you got a track star like Rashid Shaheed. You put the ball up front of him and let him run up under it. You know, because very, very few people can match Rashid Shaheed's speed. You know, you put that ball up front, let him run up under it. So that was good. Now, he also found Juwan Johnson early and often building with his tight end, having that type of success and camaraderie, finding Juwan Johnson to make plays. He had 6 catches, 5 of which came from Rattler. So Rattler loving on the tight end. And then, of course, Tyler Shuck got off to a slow start, then kind of bounced in there and made it to play. And then he had a 60-yard catch and run TD to Mason Timpton on the crossing route, which is actually pretty good. So both QBs had rough go-ins in the red zone, but Shuck was able to find Cedric Wilson for a TD over the center of the field. And, the ball was snapped from the 10-yard line. So that was a good one. Also, the rookie also impressed with the end of the day, taking on the situational drive, which he got from the own 35-yard line. They were trailing 23-21 with about $1:20 on the clock. So basically what that is, and now hold on, let me get these stupid ads off of here. So, all right. So also he impressed, but it started ugly. Now, Tyler Shuck attempted to throw the ball away, and no one in particular, but the ball actually bounced off the side of Kelvin Banks' helmet and was flagged for ground. And that meant, he faced a 2nd and 20, which he quickly erased on the deep sideline ball to Brandon Cooks to set up the offense at the 50 with about 30 seconds to go. So the drive went Shuck to Cooks, 4 yards. Shuck to Rashid, 11 yards. Then he spiked it at the 35 with 15 seconds. Then Shuck to Juwan Johnson on the quick out, 10 yards, right? Added on that. They had 11 seconds remaining. Then Shuck threw the ball away to kill the clock at the 25-yard line. So the drive would have set up a 43-yard field goal to win, and that's how it ends. So, shout out to Jeff Novak. He was the one that had some good insight on some really, really particular camp notes. So shout out to Jeff Nowak and WWL for, the breakdown and the ball down of some of this stuff. So anyway, the miscues. Let's get right into it. The miscues, a consistent issue throughout camp, continues to be there. The penalties, the refs on the hand threw their flags often and only went against the Rams, and only one went. So of course you're in their home. Of course it's going to be some home cooking. We saw illegal formations, false starts, intentional groundings, even a wide snap that Spencer Rattler was able to recover, but would have meant a big loss. The Saints relying on young players, and young players make mistakes. But man, when you're playing with the narrowest margins the Saints have this year, you can't afford to give away free yards. Got to clean it up. And that's the thing with a lot of young people, like at the quarterback position. If you got Kelvin Banks Jr., he's still a rookie. Tali Fuaga, these are young, good players that can contribute, right? The veterans that's involved in the Saints team have to control and guide this team, right? We know that Eric McCoy and Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler, whoever the quarterback is going to have to be on the same page, right? And the Saints offensive line has to be the strength of the offense, period. They're going to have to protect the guy. They're also going to have to run. So that's what it is. And of course, Jeff talks about that. He says no run. He's starting to get concerned about the Saints rushing attack, and it's really not about the running backs. I'm just not seeing the type of physicality up front that the O-line that they need to have. The Rams stout front repeatedly stuffed everything the Saints attempted between the tackles. One of the Saints' most effective runs of the day was punch out of Alvin Kamara's hand for a fumble at a 5-yard gain. So they did see some effective runs to the edges. We've also seen the Saints incorporate some speed options with Shuck, which is a neat little wrinkle that could put defenses in a bind if they don't respect the QB's running ability. Still, this feels like it's going to be a long season if you're asking either QB to drop back 30 times a game because there's nothing to be had on the ground. This is nothing new. This is what happened last year. New offensive line coach is still very on, but you have to have dogs up front. You got to have dogs up front. You got to have better backups. You got to have guys, if injuries start hitting the room, you got to have better linemen. The Saints don't have that, and they still are struggling. If you can't run the football, you're not going to win any games. You can't. And the bottom line is any team that plays the Saints, they're going to commit resources up front, and they're going to jam up the line so Alvin Kamara doesn't run. So if you have a stretch run situation where you're trying to stretch or do extended run opportunities where you dart the ball down the line of scrimmage to a wide receiver like Velus Jones Jr. or Rashid Shaheed, and those guys try to use their speed and elusivity to be able to create plus yards. If you got a fast sideline to sideline defense, they're gonna eat that shit up, man. You're gonna have to run. You're gonna have to run between the tackles. You have to be dominant. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So it's not so much about the quarterback play. The Saints have to run the ball. If you don't run the ball, you're not going to win any games. You're not going to win a lot of games. That's the bottom line, and that's the main concern so far. Now, the wrath of Wrath, if you didn't know any better watching Ted Rath on the sideline, you assume he was just a high-energy position coach. He was prowling the sidelines, hyping players up after plays. He's the pro performance director. Cool to see him out there and involved because it's an important role on his team. Players need to know he's invested in their success, and he very clearly is. Now, Tom Rath was one of the guys we talked about that the team brung over, from the Eagles, and he's one of these guys that talk about getting the team in positions to win and to do good things, right? We know about Tom Rath. We kind of figured Tom Rath would be a good player for the Saints to kind of coach to bring in, kind of help out on that side of things. And, it's good to see him get involved there as well. So anyway, let's keep it moving, man, and keep it grooving. All right, and here's a shout out to Jeff Duncan, NOLA.com. He speaks about the 10 biggest questions facing the Saints this season. Now, if y'all remember, there was a broadcast that I did at the start of the year that basically talked about that basically started off and talked about the questions the Saints had going into training camp that they had to answer. This is kind of similar. I did a broadcast on Joe. Can go back and check it out. But I think it was like 20 something questions or whatever it was. I'm gonna have to look it up again. But it was actually a pretty good talking point about, what could we do here, in terms of what could we do to kind of improve upon or what the team had to do going forward? And the bottom line was, man, listen, man, it's a lot to be said about what the Saints got going on this year. Now, I've said before the Saints potentially could win 9 or 10 games with a very agreeable schedule. But outside of that, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just one of those situations where you got to kind of figure out what you need to work on and get it fixed. Now, you cannot allow yourself not to be a team that can't run the football. Yeah, it was 15 questions the Saints. Let me say it was 15 questions. The Saints before training camp. That's it. 15 questions for Saints before 2025 training camp. And that's that's the name of the show. Y'all can look it up and watch it. It was actually broken into 2 parts for the family members to check it out. It's one long stream. It was a part of a stream, and then I broke it in half for a shorter viewing. But anyway, here's Jeff Duncan's version, and he's talking about the season. 10 biggest questions facing the team as the season looms. Is Kellen Moore ready for prime time? The early returns have been positive for the Saints' first-year coach, Kellen Moore, having praised him for the efficiency of practice and his creative plays, this type of thing. So far, so good, but the litmus test will come when he leads the team into battle during the regular season. So how is this going to shape up? This is the whole thing. How is this going to shape up? How is this going to look, right? What's his litmus test coming to the season? How would it look? Now, number 9, are the special teams still special? For years, the Saints special teams have ranked among the best in the league. This year feels like a crapshoot for a myriad of reasons. Longtime coordinator Rizzi is in Denver. The unit's longtime captain, JT Gray, is hurt, and the punter will likely be either Kai Kroger or James Burnip, 2 unknown commodities. Well, this is true. And all this is very true. We don't even know who the return man is. We've been seeing different returners at it. So, yes, the special teams are going to be interesting. Now, we do know the place kicker is Blake Grupe, and he has done really well in camp, so that gives you hope right there. We are familiar with Phil Galliano because he was the assistant for Darren Rizzi. We know that he is a good coach, special teams coach. We know JT is hurt. That just means somebody got to step up. And I think Kai Kroger and James Burnip could be better than Matt Hayball and the guy that was before him. So the punter situation, we've been dealing with that for the last couple of years. But I actually think either one of these guys will be better than the last 2 guys that we had from the punter situation. So the punter situation to me is not that bad. Plus, James Burnip really punted the hell out of the ball. I think he'll be an awesome punter for us. And Kroger looked good too. Number 8, is Alontae Taylor okay? The Saints are counting on a big year from Taylor, so his groin injury is worrisome. Taylor plays the star position, the playmaking role Darwin James and Jalen Ramsey man and Staley's defense. His loss for any period of time will be the setback for the unit. Indeed, the Saints will have to find somebody to step up in that position and make plays happen. So whoever that might be, we'll just have to wait and see. Now, just kind of talk about the practice once again. The Saints offense ran 86 plays against the Rams. 86 plays against the Rams. 60% of which the ones participated in those plays. So, are some of those guys, when you do that on Thursday, then of course you have Friday, them traveling, and then Saturday, like walkthroughs, not much work going on, getting ready for the football game on Sunday. So they doing it. They put in the heavy workload Thursday. So what does that mean? Are some of these guys going to line up and play in the second preseason game? It's yet to be determined. But it'd be good to see some of the ones get in there and get some work together as a unit and a couple of reps together, maybe a series, and then you pull them on up out of there and you go somewhere else. We know Dylan Redunce has to step up with Trevor Penning hurt. He'll have to occupy the guard position. The Saints added Matt Panasovic, I think the man's name is. They added him, the UFL, XFL guy who I liked a lot of his tape, nasty offensive lineman. I like a lot of his tape, a guy that's an overachiever. But, we'll see how that looks. He had, limited experience in the NFL. And you're looking at the Saints did bring in people like Cody Whitehair and Cusenberry, and none of them dudes was signed by the Saints. They had veteran offensive linemen. They tried out and they didn't even sign them. So I don't understand why you doing that. I don't get why they're not adding these people. But anyway, what are you going to see here? Maybe they're waiting to see them have a performance against the Jaguar. I didn't like it. I deem they need to do something about it. But we'll see if some of those guys gets involved in that preseason matchup. And Will Blackman was just to talk about Will Blackman with all those interceptions that he had. He's definitely the guy that I really like for the Saints at the safety position. You know, he was out there making plays. Chase Young had multiple sacks and pass breaking ups. He looks good. Like I said, Chase Young flying all over the field. Julian Blackman, who kind of, having some production at that safety position with Tyron retiring prior to camp. So that's a positive. So a lot of this has to, the secondary guys have to step up and cover. With Alontae Taylor having that groin issue, we thinking he'll be ready for the regular season, but still in all, this will test the Saints' depth. You got guys like Rico Payton and all these other guys. Ugo Amadi is there. Is Quincy Riley ready to step up? So time will tell. So number 7, will Taysom Hill return? Moore has been intentionally vague with the details whenever asked about Hill's status. The veteran running back or utility back expected to start the season on the PUP list, which would sideline him for the next 6 games of the season. When and if he returns, Hill will give Moore and offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier a key offensive chess piece. The Saints have no one with Hill's unique skill set on the roster, which is a good and a bad thing. Having a guy like Taysom Hill, if you know how to match him and use him, it's terrific. And also how inventive is the play calling, because the last year's guy was totally inept. He would use Taysom Hill till his wheels fall off. He didn't know how to mix Taysom in offense with his other players and have players to play off of Taysom, this type of thing. So can Doug Nussmeier, when he finally gets Taysom Hill back, and we think of Taysom Hill, a lot of people believe that I don't think he'll be ready for the regular season. They think if Foster Moreau could be, and people are considering Taysom to start off on the PUP list, and more than likely, he'll have a return by the middle of the season, somewhere in there. That's what people are, the word on the street is. Number 6, will Chase Young break out? If the Saints defense is going to make a big leap, it likely will need a big year from Chase Young. He looks poised to deliver. The number 2 overall pick in the 21 draft is healthy and appears to be thriving on the edge of Staley's 34 defense. The league has been waiting for him to resurrect the promise he showed as a rookie. It might be now or never for the former defensive rookie of the year. Chase Young is by far, as a pro, is the happiest that we've seen. Chase Young has stayed healthy. He got the contract that he wanted. And since the Saints made the 34 shift, he has made plays after play at practice. His name has been a regular name that you've been hearing about at practice all the time. It's been Chase Young, breaking up passes, getting in the backfield, doing this type of stuff. Him and Carl Granderson fit really well in the 34 scheme because it allow you to see their athleticism. And Chase Young is a guy that got his money from the Saints, and he's definitely poised. If you're thinking about breakout candidates this year, you got to put Chase Young up there among the top ones you're thinking about to have a breakout. But Chase Young is up there. Number 5, who backs up Alvin Kamara? Kendre Miller is the most talented. Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire are the most experienced. Velus is the most versatile. And we don't yet know where rookies Devin Neal and Marcus Yarns fit into the mix. Miller's blends of size, speed, and explosiveness is unmatched. Reliability has been an issue. Not only has he been injured for much of his career, but he struggled with missed assignments. This could be a make it or break a year for Miller. But his preseason performance has been encouraging. He's healthy. His mind is right. His slate is clear. We heard Kellen Moore cleared the slate for Kendre Miller. He's healthy. He's in great shape. He looked pretty decent early on in the game, the first preseason matchup. But then again, like I said, the Saints offensive line has to be able to block. But Kendre Miller is good at making you miss on the first tackle attempt and getting to the next level. As long as he stays healthy, he should have something. But also, guys have to block to give these guys an opportunity to get yardage. Number 4, can they find a third receiver? Brandon Cooks was signed in the offseason, presumably to be the third option behind Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And I said this on the previous broadcast, is that a lot of people say, Q, I don't understand what the Saints are doing. Why would they try to make Chris Olave the one as opposed to go out and get a possession type one and pair him with him and Rashid Shaheed? Because the Saints, best I can figure is that they're trying to create a track team. Why and what does that mean? A track team, because pretty much what they attempted to do is to create a track team so that guys can't stack the box against them without getting their issue on the back end. So that's the idea. That's the idea. You can't stack the box. You can't drop safeties down into the box against the Saints because they're going to have those 3 wide receiver track teams out there testing and putting pressure on your secondary. So if that philosophy holds and they stack the box up against the Saints, then they'll let it fly. Either Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck, they'll let it fly to Chris Olave. They'll let it fly to Rashid Shaheed. They'll let it fly to Brandon Cooks. They have a track team there, and that is to stop the defense from stacking the box. So that allows the Saints to spread out the defense and run the football, right? That's the best I got on that. So the 31-year-old veteran is his third team in 4 years and has seen his production decline annually. He's had relatively a quiet camp. Brandon Cooks have made some plays, but he's the third wide receiver. We understand that. He's a veteran to the group, and he's still the third best receiver the Saints have. Unheralded Mason Tipton has made a lot of plays this preseason, but remains unproven. Veteran reserve Cedric Wilson Jr. and Donovan Peoples-Jones have yet to make any impact. Don't be surprised if the Saints add a veteran receiver or two after roster cuts. I don't think they're finished at this point. No, they shouldn't. They aren't. But the reality is you should be doing what your defense doing. And I've been pinpointing this and saying that I don't understand what's the philosophy. Like Brendan Staley's not playing around. He's going to get players because he sees players that are not performing. So he's trying out players and bringing them in here and signing them. What's up with Kellen Moore and why is he doing that with his offense? That's how the defense was built up. The defense was built up because they're proactive. The offense is not the same. They bring in this guy here. They let this guy here. You know, it's just not the same energy. And if you want to win, you can't play around with that offensive line. You cannot play with that line. If you want to trade for a guy or bring in, you got to get better backups and you have to, power up your offensive line because your season is riding on that offensive line. You can't play around with garbage backups. How long will Trevor Penning be sidelined? The Saints can't afford any injuries along their depth-shy offensive line, so the loss of Penning and backup center Will Clapp in preseason opener is cause for concern. Turf toe injuries are notoriously finicky, and Penning has to battle foot injuries in the past. His ability for the season opener against Arizona is up in the air. His replacement, Dylan Redunce, hardly inspired confidence with his performance against the Chargers, allowing 2 sacks, including the one that led to a lost fumble, and he committed 2 penalties. He was playing out of position. Dylan Redunce was playing out of position. They tried to cross-train him at tackle. That was the stupidest decision in the world. Allow Dylan Redunce to play from the guard position. By doing that, you remove Penning's competition. Why would you do that? See, the thing is, Dylan Redunce was supposed to be competing with Trevor Penning for that guard position. So they took the pressure off of Penning by moving Redunce to a tackle, which is stupid. Go get a tackle. You have $20 million. Go out and get a goddamn veteran tackle. Why are they cross-training these guys? If you're going to cross-train Redunce, let him cross-train to be a center. He's a guard. He ain't fleet of foot enough to play the tackle position. That's why he had those plays, and that's why he looked bad. Don't do that. Go get a damn tackle. These people are amazing. So, yeah, Dylan Redunce slides back inside. Crazy. Now, how improved is the defense? Brandon Staley's 34 scheme has looked stingy throughout camp. The defense has been running camp. Let's just be honest. And starting strong against the Chargers before the reserve units hemorrhage points and yards late. The front seven should be stouter against the run, and Kool-Aid McKinstry has made a big leap in year 2. Still, the Saints need young Taylor to have breakout years for the unit to be special. The best friend of young quarterbacks is a good defense. We don't know yet if the D is one. Still yet to be determined, but it bodes well. If you got young cornerbacks that have experienced safety play, Justin Reed and Julian Blackmon as safeties, Blackmon flying around making plays. He had 3 interceptions in the scrimmage against the Rams. And he's been picking the ball off in practice since he got here. The day after, or the same day the Saints, Tyrann Mathieu retired, they hired, was it the day or the day after, either or, they bring this man in, and he's done nothing but make plays. He's done nothing but make plays. He fit well in the defense. Experienced safety play helps out young cornerbacks. So that is something bold the Saints have. And we've yet to see, but I'm very encouraged by what I've seen about the defense because I love the philosophy. If you don't have the player that you need, go sign the guy. That's something the defense has been doing. That's why they outranking the offense, because the offense is not signing people fast enough to fulfill it. They got guys getting hurt and falling down, and they signing these undrafted guys. Go out and find somebody with experience while you got the opportunity and bring them in here to help your team move forward. The offense is not doing that under Kellen Moore. The defense under Staley is bringing in defensive resources. That's why they're ahead of the curve. You need to, for the Saints to have success this year, it's not outside of just having decent quarterback play. They have to run the ball, and the defense has to get turnovers and stops teams. And the special teams have to hit field goals and put in punt and pin guys back deep in their own territory. But the offense has to score in the red zone, and that's been something early on we've seen. They ain't running the ball correctly, and that is definitely cause for concern. So who's the QB? No question looms larger in the quarterback-driven league. The Saints have the most inexperienced quarterback room in the NFL, and with the regular season just 3 weeks ago, with the regular season just 3 weeks away, they still don't know who the starter is, and at this point, it's a two-man race between Shuck and Rattler. My sense, the Saints would like to see Shuck take the bull by the horns and win the job, but so far, he hasn't separated himself from Rattler, says Jeff Duncan, who continues to make the decision difficult. Sunday's preseason game against the Jags could be decisive. Indeed, all of the games will count because they're going to look at these guys and see which one of these guys fit better to what they got going on. So that's just something to kind of look at and see that that's going to go to the length of all the remaining 2 preseason games. And like I said, Tyler Shuck did himself well in the first preseason matchup. Spencer Rattler, like I said, I think he's still in the head of it, even though they might start this game with Shuck at 1. But Spencer Rattler is still ahead in the game. Now, like I've said before, in order for Spencer Rattler to win the job, he has to look a lot better than Tyler Shuck. Right now, it's too close. If it's close like this, the Saints going to go with Tyler Shuck. They're going to go with Shuck. But it wouldn't hurt him to go with Spencer Rattler to start the year and put Spencer out there. And if Spencer fails, then it'd be justification for them to then slide Shuck in there 3 or 4 games down the line. You see what I'm saying? So they got a way to drive it. And some people think if Tyler Shuck ain't ready to start, then they won't start him. But they'll be looking at down the line. I ain't talking about next year, but the same season. If Spencer goes out there and struggles mightily, and people start roughing him up, they'll put Tyler Shuck in there. And if that happens, in their minds, it provides justification to make a QB switch. You get what I'm saying? We've seen this before. All right. So anyway, shout out to Jeff Duncan. Let's move on to this next article right here. The Saints did do themselves. They announced a roster decision the other day, and they signed this gentleman right here, Jeremiah Martin, and waived Hunter Dekkers. Hunter Dekkers had no influence at all in the QB battle. He was cut, then brought back, and now they know that he don't have a chance, so they just release him again, waive him again, and down the line, who knows? He might end up on the practice squad for the Saints because they could use a backup practice squad quarterback. But Jeremiah Martin, 6'4", 265, joins the Saints after stints with Cleveland and Giants and Packers, right? Began his career as an undrafted guy by the Browns back in 23 out of the University of Washington, leading the Browns in 2020 preseason with 2 sacks. In 5 years with the Texas A&M team in Washington, he played 56 games, 14 starts, had 64 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 1 pass breakup, 2 fumbles. So this is a guy the Saints bringing in to improve defense. So notice the Saints are bringing in veteran guys to try to find a way to improve what they got going on defensively, which is smart. It's very smart to do that. It is very smart. You need to do that. You need to bring in talent because what you have is not working. In your benefit, you got to have talent there. If certain guys are not handling their business, then you got to find other guys to bring in there and make moves, right? All right. So anyway, let's take a look at the depth chart right here, unofficial depth chart for the Saints before we finish out. And you can see right here, like I said, on the defensive side, you see Isaiah Foskey is probably going to get some more burn. Fadil Diggs has been having a positive camp as well. He had some positive stuff going on with him. Jonathan Bullard, not much you've heard from Bullard on that. Jaden Peavy, another lineman, they added Peavy into the mix. And that's what the defense has been doing. They've just been adding veteran players. And you'll see Jamie Martin in the defensive line mix as well. So whatever the defense need, they're going to go out to get it. So like I said, Lante Taylor. Also, Ugo Amadi and Jaden Price. We've seen Jaden Price making plays in the preseason as well. We've seen Rico Payton. We've seen Rejon Wright. We've seen Terrell Burgess. As you can see, he moves ahead behind Justin Reed, not Jonas Sanker. It's the unofficial depth chart. And, of course, like I see, Blackman with Jordan Howard and J.T. Gray's missing. But Dallas Beenum, haven't heard a lot from him. And Quincy Riley has some positive stuff. So the Saints defense adds talent. It adds talent. The offense does not. Now, we did know the team did pick up Mike Panasiewicz to back up at the center position. And you can see unofficially they got Kyle Hergel at the center position. He looked awful. Now they got Dylan Redunce back behind Penning. At first, he was over here. Torricelli Simpkins is the backup behind McCoy currently. But Mike Panasiewicz is a guy that you can bring in to help out. But none of these other guys are with Jonathan Mendoza, Josiah Rahim, Shane Lemieux, Easton Kilty, Landon Young, Barry Wesley, Kyle Hergel. None of these other guys have done a damn thing to separate themselves. And plus, the tight end situation, I don't like how it looks. Michael Thomas and Michael Jacobson and Trayton Welch didn't look all that good. Seth Green didn't look all that good. Matavo's a rookie. So like I said, it's just you don't want to play around with the tight end position. You don't want to play around with the backup offensive line. And the Saints just haven't done enough from that perspective to solidify those groups, in my estimation. All right, let's hit the final one here. New Orleans Saints place second-year wide receiver on the IR. So that basically collectively is Bub Means. Bub Means, a lot of people thought Bub Means had some potential in the Saints season coming into this thing. He can help, but he had a wicked ankle injury that will end his season. So that's something to talk about. He tried to seek a second opinion on it, but the NFL dictate players put on the injury reserve before the regular season starts are done for the year. So the Saints IR'd Bub Means, which means he's done for the year. Ain't no coming back for this. So remember, NFL rules dictate that, and this is something for you to remember, that players put on the injury reserve before the regular season starts are done for the year unless they later agree to an injury settlement and miss a certain amount of time before signing with a different team. Either way, Bub Means won't be playing for the Saints in 2025. He'll join offensive lineman Nick Saldiveri and Will Clapp, as well as tight end Mason Pline on the IR. Now, the Saints did sign Roderick Daniels Jr. Following the injury, potentially indicating that they knew this would be a long-term setback. Unfortunately, Means will not have an opportunity to show his skill set once again after some promising reps back in 2024. So it's just unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, for the Saints. So Bub Means, big physical receiver, Bub Means is gone, and the Saints then bring in and Bub is 6'2", 2 something, I want to say. And they bring in Roderick Daniels, who is a 5'9", 186-pound wide receiver, but he's a speedster with special team application. So perhaps the Saints are looking, because they got several players that have returner ability. This guy's a returner. So 5'9", 186, played in 52 games with 12 starts at SMU, 105 catches, over 1,400 yards, 12 touchdowns. They also used him as a rusher, so he has all that going on for him. And then, of course, you more interested in his punt return duties. He handled punt return duties for the Mustangs for 3 years. He returned 56 punts for over almost 600 yards. He averaged almost 11 yards with 2 touchdowns. As a senior in 2024, he appeared in 14 games, had 8 starts, recording career highs of 42 catches, 663 yards. He averaged 16 yards per catch and tied a career high with 4 touchdowns and added 160 yards on 44 carries, just under 4 yards a rush. So they lose Bub Means and they replace him with Roderick Daniels, an undrafted speedster return guy. So what does that bode for your offensive? How's that bode now for the offensive brass? The Saints keep it moving. We have not answered these questions about who the next group of wide receivers are outside of Olave, Cooks, and Shaheed. Kevin Austin Jr. get more looks. Cedric Wilson Jr. made a few catches. Mason Timpton has shined in camp, but can he be relied upon? Dante Pettis had some interest. They gave Dante Pettis a lot of work in these games because Pettis is 6'2", about 190 or so, has good speed, looked pretty shabby in the return game. And Donovan Peoples-Jones has not done a damn thing. I don't know what's going on with that. They did get rid of Chris Tyree because he got hurt, and Moochie Dixon is still there. So I'm not seeing what's going on with this. This is Donovan Peoples-Jones hasn't done a damn thing in terms of he really hadn't done anything. That's why I was kind of looking at the Saints of why they didn't do something to improve his opportunity to get some more wide receivers in here. You know, I didn't get that part of the game with the Saints. I don't get it. But anyway, with that being said, fam, listen, that's going to be the end of the broadcast. Do me a service, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on social media feed. Shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all for being in this live, man. I'm going to try to come back and holler at y'all later on tonight. Tomorrow we'll have the Saints versus Jags preview. The watch stream will be Sunday at 12 to start the broadcast off. So y'all be looking out for that. The live watch stream. We'll see how that works. But man, listen, it's been a tough, rough camp so far, you know, in terms of our offense. And that was the main question is, how are the Saints going to, you know, how that offensive line is going to look, how the running attack is going to look. The defense is doing its thing. I think the special teams will be fine. Ultimately, I think we'll have a better punter than we had the last couple of years. Either I like Burnup or either Kai Kroger. Both of these guys are better than the last 2 guys we had punting the ball, to be honest with you. And then the returners are really the interesting thing because we're not really talking about that. Who are the returners? We're saying Kendra Miller return. We've seen all this other stuff, but we have to figure out who are the kick returner and punt returners. If Ellis Jones Jr., who was thrown in the mix, will he have an opportunity to do that? Because he's also mentioned, even though he's not listed as a wide receiver, Vellis is also one of these guys we talked about who's trying to make a name for himself in the Saints offense. And they utilized him a lot in the last preseason game because of his versatility. He was making some plays. So another unsung camp hero, Vellis Jones Jr., was kind of buried in the depth chart. Nobody really was talking about him. And he's making his presence felt. So that's a positive sign. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to get out on that. Listen, y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and by all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. We up in this thing. Check out our fantastic show sponsors, Optery, Teach Henley, and our fantastic phone service as well, Mint Mobile. You guys check them out. The links are in the description section below. 20% off with Optery. Protect yourself and protect that online identity, man, with Optery. We're giving you a 20% discount with the Sports Coma link. All that information is in the section below. Also, stay up with all your news, notes, and items, Who Dat Nation, at the whodatdaily.com. The new whodatdaily.com. The new whodatdaily.com is available. Check it out. Link in the description, and support the stream via our merch and stuff like that. So with that being said, I'm out. And I'm going to holler at you later on. Much love, Who Dat to you, and peace.
Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees on Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that at. Where we do that at. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that at. Boogie like this and I'm a Who Dat. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
WhoThatDaily.com. That's right, the WhoThatDaily.com. Your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, LSU Tigers, even the top flight boxing. So if you're a Who Dat and you're looking for a place to stay up on your team, WhoThatDaily.com is your site. The WhoThatDaily.com for the sport Who Dat in all of us. That's right, the Pro Shop is the platform store where you can go and buy all the latest merch to support the platform. Available at the Pro Shops, we have dozens of hundreds of products available for you and your family. Unisex tees for men and women, hoodies and sweatshirts, tank tops, kids and baby items, long sleeve tees, mugs, pillows, wall art, bath bedding, face masks, phone cases, stickers, bags, fanny packs, socks, hats, and many other items. Please feel free to check out the Pro Shops. The link is in the description section below. And remember, it helps the platform continue to grow. Check out the Pro